Alright, so here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Alright, so in this part it talks about conic sections. Conic sections are known as conics figures that result from intersecting a cone with a plane. A cone with a plane. You see when you slice it you get a circle there. That's known as a conic section. There are 4 types of them, but we're only going to study 2 of them because this is an optional unit. You have circles, parabolas, ellipses, and hyperbolas. The ones that occur on the ACT is circles and ellipses, so that's the only 2 we're going to do. The parabola that you know there is not the same parabola as a quadratic, okay? And that's why I don't want you to get confused with that one. So we're just going to focus on 2, and like I said, it's optional if we even do this unit, but I do want to do circles and ellipses because they appear on the ACT. Alright, so standard form for a circle. And hyperbolas are really hard, so x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And I want to go on to the calculus, so you be ready for calculus next year. Because after this one, I got 3.5 weeks to teach the calculus unit. The center is in the parentheses with the x and y. The x will always be there, the y will always be there. The center in this case will be what? HK. It's opposite of what you see. You see a negative, it's going to be a positive. See a negative, it's going to be a positive. And your radius would be what? R. You take the square root of that. So on this first section, all you do is identify the center and the radius. On number 1, what do you think the center will be? 0, 2. There's not a parentheses there, so it's just 0. 0 and 2. You find it there? It's in the other set of notes. Yes. You just now come to that conclusion I showed you.
I was here Friday, so I thought I had that.
It's in the last section of your notes. Okay, they are. They are.
It's funny, I want to go put it in my binder, and I opened up to the page. That's the one graduating.
I know.
That was not on purpose.
Mm-hmm. The center is 0, 2. What would be your radius here? 4. What's your center here? Your radius would be what? Do you think you need to simplify square root of 24? Yes. What would that be? 2 root 6. Very good. So put R's here. My center is here. Number 3. What would be my center? 1/2 and radius would be 3 over 2. Very good. 3 over 2. Now let's make sure you know how to graph these in case I ask you to graph one of these. I'm not going to ask you to graph nothing like number 3. But let's look at 1 and 2. I said my center's at 0, 2. Okay? 0, 2. My radius is 4. What do you think we would do with that? In each direction. North, south, east, west. We're going to draw a circle the best we can, okay? And that would be my graph. Do y'all see how to graph a circle? Don't judge my drawing, Jack. I know. Yeah, that right there is a little rough. Alright, let's look at number 2. Alright, my center's at -4, -5. Okay. Now, I want you to find me the decimal approximation for the square root of 24 right now. 4.9. I should have known that because it's close to square root of what? 25. So we're going to estimate go at 4.9. 1, 2, 3, 4, almost. 1, 2, 3, 4, almost to 5. This is going to be really bad, Jack. Okay, there you go. And that's how you graph that. You just estimate. Does that make sense? Alright, so I know some of y'all bored right now. Don't worry. Look at number 4. Does it have any parentheses? So guess what we have to do? Complete the square. You remember that? About time. You overslept a little bit. A lot. We all have those days. Thank you. Alright. So are we good on the types like 1, 2, and 3 of how to pick the center and radius out? Y'all look at me. Are we good? I need to see people's facial expressions. Okay. Now, number 4. Here's where these are the harder ones. You're going to have to do a process called completing the square, but you're going to have to get it set up to do that. So what you're going to do is get all your x's to the normal side, all the y's to the place where they're usually, and the number that does not involve x and y, where do you think you need to put that? After the equals, because that's going to involve your radius, okay? So here, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do x squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 8y equals -16. And take a moment to see what I did on that. I put my x's together, I put my y's here, and move that 16 over. It becomes a -16. Now, if you remember completing the square, you take half of the what? Half of the middle, then what? Square it. What's half of -2? -1. -1 squared is what? If I add 1 here, what am I going to do on the other side? Don't you have to keep the equation balanced? It's been a long time since we did completing the square, but come on now. Okay. Now, I'm going to take half of -8. What's half of -8? -4 squared is? -4 squared is? Okay. If I add 16 here, I got to do what over here? Add 16. Whatever you add to one side, guys, you got to add the other, because that's balancing an equation, isn't it? So let's go back through that process. You take half of this, which is -1. -1 squared is 1. If I add 1 here, got to add it over here. Half of -8 is -4. -4 squared is 16. If I add it here, I got to add it here. Now, you got to factor that. If I was to factor x squared minus 2x plus 1, what would you get? X minus 1 times what? X minus 1, which I could rewrite that as x minus 1 what? Isn't that how this equation of circle is supposed to look? So it's going to look like that every time if you did completing square correctly. So this becomes x minus 1 squared. What would this be? Y minus what? 4 squared equals -16 plus 1 is -15 plus 16 is 1. Yes?
Why are we taking out of the square?
Because you're trying to... Does this look anything like this at the moment? No. That equation does not look like that equation. You got to get it to look like that equation. And the way you do that is through the process of completing this square. And that's why we're doing what we're doing here. Now, once I get to this, can you tell me the center of that circle? What is it? 1, 4. What's my radius? Take the square root of this. What's the square root of 1? There's your answer. The whole reason we're doing that half and square is because you got to get that to look like a form that you can pick the equation. You can't tell me the equation of that circle when it's in that form. Also, what I want you to notice is, you notice that the coefficients in front of x squared and y squared is what? 1. They have to be 1. Like over here, are they 1? No, they're not 1. So on number 5, that's a problem, isn't it? First of all, the problem is it doesn't look like the equation of a circle. That's the first thing. Second thing, that coefficient's not 1. But what do you notice can be taken out of all of those? A 2. Take a 2 out. You don't have to write the 2 down. Just take it out. And that's going to be left with what? X squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 4y plus 17 equals 0. You just took a 2 out. Now, once we do that, what do we need to do now? Group your what? Your x's together and group your y's together. Alright? X squared minus 10x plus y squared plus 4y equals negative 17. I moved the 17 over and got it on the other side, negative 17. I want you to finish that part out for me. See what you get. Finish that. Four and 5 is as hard as it gets in this lesson. Are you good? Then you get your notes? Get your notes down. What you do? Oh, okay, good. So your radius won't be negative. You did something wrong with the radius is negative. Alright, what's half of negative 10? Negative 5. Negative 5 squared is? If I add 25 there, I do what over here? Yep. Half of 4 is? 2 squared is? If I add 4 here, I do what over here? So now how can I factor this? Is x what? Squared plus y equals 12. Very good. If you got that, you did it right so far. Okay, what's your center? Now your radius is square root of 12. Can I reduce that? 2 square root of 3. Alright, on number 6 right here, we have x squared plus y squared plus 14x equals 0. Okay. Ask you in your judgment here. X squared. Is there anything else going on with x squared? No, so you just leave x squared. Do you need to do any completing the square there? On x squared? No. So that lets you know that the coordinate for the x coordinate of the center would be what? 0 on it. Because if you just see some x squared and y squared with no parentheses, that means that digit in that coordinate is 0. Does that make sense? So x squared would just stay x squared. But you got something to go with the y, don't you? Y squared plus 14y. So do you need to complete the square on that part? 14x. Oh, never mind. That's why y'all looking at me crazy. Okay, so do you need to complete the square on x squared plus 14x? Yes, but y squared do you not? No, because the y squared coordinate would just be what? 0. Do y'all see that? Okay, so let's group our x's together. What's half of 14? 7 squared is. If I add 49 there, I got to do what on the other side? Add 49. Now, I'm going to factor that. That will be x plus 7 squared plus y squared equals 49. What will be your center? Negative 7, 0. My radius would be 7. To graph that, you would put a dot at negative 7, 0. Go north, south, east, west. How many units? 7. Are y'all good on that? So our first learning target today was identifying the center and the radius of a circle. It's easy when it's already in that form, isn't it? But when it's not, you have to do a process called completing square, where you take the half of the middle term squared. If you add it to one side, you got to do it what to the other side? Alright. Guys, we still have 23 days in here. 23 days, just saying. Okay, our next learning target is I can write the equation of the circle. Now I'm going to give you the center and the radius, or I'm going to give you some information. This is the type that's going to be part of the ACT most likely. You got to come up with the equation here. 7, 8 is pretty straightforward. If I give you the center and the radius, can't you just write the problem? Yes. Now remember, you're going backwards. If I see a positive 4, 3 here, what's going to be in that parentheses? Negative 4. You say, Mr. Chase, what if I forget those little squares? I'm going to mark it wrong because it's got to be in that format. So x minus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. I squared the radius to get 4. Alright, number 8, you have a center at 0, 6. So since 0 is sitting in my x spot, how do I write that? X squared. I want to put a parentheses. Do you see that? Plus y minus 6 squared equals, now what would I put right here? 15, because if you square that, that's going to just give you 15. That's your answer. Nine and 10 requires you to do some thinking. They're not hard, but you got to think about it. On number 9, it says my center's at 2, 3, which that's easy. We could go and write that part of the equation out. My center's at x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals. This is what I don't know is my radius. It says my center's at 2, 3, and the circle passes through. That means that that curve goes through that. So if I got a center, and I'm going out to that side, if I knew that length, wouldn't that be the radius? Okay. This was pretty easy. You probably could see this in your mind. But if you couldn't see it in the mind, how could you find the length of that? You can graph it, but what's the formula? Distance. Use the distance formula. Find the distance. And I'm going to use distance formula to make sure you understand the distance formula. D equals x sub 2, very good, 5 minus 2 squared. What goes here? Plus 3 minus 3 squared. I'm going to go and tell you, you're going to have to use the distance formula when I get it, because I'm not going to give you something that easy. So make sure you understand how to do distance formula. Find the length. 5 minus 2 is 3 squared, plus 0 squared. That gives me 9. Square root of 9 equals 3. So my radius is 3. So what will I put here? 9. You got to square the radius. Number 10 is our last one. That's this. You're going to work on your assignment. The center's at 5, -4. Okay, we know the center. So I'm going to go over and write it. X minus 5 squared plus what? Y plus 4 squared equals. Now, it says the center's at 5, -4, and the circle is tangent to the line of y equals 0. What does tangent mean? It's touching. That means it's touching the line. That's all you need to know. Tangent means this circle is touching this line. Okay? So what I'm going to do is draw a visual. You have to draw a visual sometimes to see this, okay? And you can sketch it right here if you wanted to. Let's just sketch it right here. Five -4. My circle is right there. That's my center of my circle right there. And it says it's tangent to the line y equals 0. Is y equals 0 this or this? This. So there's an imaginary line running right there. That means it touches it. That means the edge touches it there. So if I counted from there to that line, wouldn't that give me my radius? Because my edge is at that tangent. Does that make sense? So watch this. I'm going to count up here. 1, 2, 3, what? What's 4 squared? Do you see how that makes? How you would do that? That means the circle is, if I drew this circle, it's tangent right here, so it's 4 away from that. Does that make sense? Are we good on that? Kobe, you good? You sleepy, Kobe? Okay, I don't want you on your cell phones. I want you doing those problems that's up there on that board. And this is the time for me. If you don't understand something, please come to my table and get help, okay? Because we're not doing another day on this. We hit ellipses hard tomorrow.